And welcome back, volleyball fans. It has been a few months since we've gotten into a little bit of the NBA action, but I decided that this year for Quest for the Cup, one Nick all last year was far too much, so I've doubled down. And this season, I'm going to be joined by my partner in crime, Nick West from the OC Stunners. So you're going to see twice the Nick, twice the action as we go through all things NBA this season in Quest for the Cup. Do a little bit more on the breakdowns, kind of deep dive into things, make it a little more casual, a little more fun, get some of the player insight. So Nick, thanks so much for joining me. I'm excited to get you on board and see what you got to say about it all.
I am happy to be here. Thank you for having me on Quest for the Cup. It appears that all my years of dancing and starving for attention has finally paid off, and you let me join the show.
Yeah, we finally got the message loud and clear. So let's go ahead and dive into what fans can expect for NBA 2023. And some of the things that if you're following us on social media that you will definitely have seen already, we've got 3 new teams. So we've got San Diego Wild, Puerto Rico Pythons, and then the Philadelphia Founders. Well, Nick, before we get too far into what fans can get excited about with those 3 new teams, unfortunately, that means that there are 3 teams leaving the league. So why don't you give us a rundown on that?
Teams leading the league this year are the Dallas Tornadoes, the Colorado Kraken, and much like the fabled mythical creature itself, this Seattle Sasquatch has made an appearance and will not be seen again.
Unfortunately, that's one of those things that we face as a league is these are, it's a big undertaking to get the an organization up and off the ground. So for now, those teams will all be taking a back seat. So, but like we said, Wild, Pythons, Founders, 3 new brands, a lot of them already from entities within the league. We're going to see Andrew Lee, who was formerly with Chicago Untouchables, taking over that Founders roster. We see Natasha Mills-Nolles, who was with the Inland Empire Matadors, will be heading down for the Puerto Rico Pythons. And then I stepped away from Las Vegas Ramblers, and I'm heading back to my hometown of San Diego to take over San Diego Wild. So a lot of veteran leadership there.
We will have the same amount of teams this year. That will not change at all. And a lot of familiar faces, just in new places. So just getting that announcement out there right now. These new teams, welcome to the NBA. And the representative of the Wild and the Stunners, we look forward to playing against you.
Absolutely. And you did say new places. So I kind of want to segue that into some of our exciting news. So anyone that's in SoCal that's been keeping up with the league, we've had a great venue at the Pierce Sports Center on San Bernardino, but unfortunately, out in San Bernardino has been a little bit of the crux there. Getting some of the fan presence, things like that. It's been a little bit of a trick. It's a little bit of a trek down here in SoCal. So we're excited that this season we're going to be heading to Long Beach City College, that's LBCC, for the majority of our sixth event season. One caveat, our 4th event will be heading to Downey High School, just working out some of that scheduling. So it will definitely be a new place to catch all of the NBA action that you're so accustomed to seeing.
And although San Bernardino is a hotbed of volleyball activity, we are excited to bring it closer to a central Los Angeles location. So look for it in Long Beach and in Downey.
Yeah, definitely nice for the Stunners, for Blaze, both of them getting their backyard. And then now we got San Diego Wild. Not too far of a drive for their fans, Matadors as well. So a lot of those SoCal teams, they've got a lot of their fans running the area. So
pretty much seems like 50% of the guys in the league are within that 50-mile radius out here. So it works out perfectly.
Yeah, I follow suit with where we know that talent comes from for a lot of men's volleyball here in the U.S. So again, leading into what's next. Well, we're maybe a little bit later and closer to the start of the season than we have been in some years past. There's been a lot going on, as we've already shared.
And to get to that pressure point, the teams are starting to come together. More and more guys showing up to open gyms. It's an exciting part of the year, Nick. I can't wait to get cracking.
Well, so now that I've headed down to San Diego, I'm a little bit removed from some of the ongoings here in Orange County. What's that looking like for the Stunners? How are you guys shaping up? And you guys always bring a lot of international talent. And we know that that event 1, event 2 kind of overlaps with some of those contracts, and it's always an interesting time for the teams. Turns into a little bit of the Wild West. You got to pick up some, important wins. How are you guys feeling? How's the gym looking for you guys?
The gym is looking good right now. We've got Coach Prosser keeping us into shape, running the drills. We've been getting a couple new faces. We just picked up Damani Lenore from the Blaze. He's going to fill in at opposite for us. We've had a problem. The last 2 years, we've actually lost both of our first 2 games at the first event. So if we do anything to, secure one win That's always the most important thing. And these kind of, events where the teams are still figuring out their roster, guys are coming back from Europe. You just squeeze one win out and, wait for your team to kind of fill in. And after that, it's
yeah. Event 3, that moment when Event 3 starts, and always from the player perspective, it feels like it is just full green light.
full rosters are there, full go. That's when you're going to kind of get the full picture of where the playoff teams and where those best teams are going to fit in going into the final stretch.
I love that point, though. You talk about what it looks like to kind of get into that top 8, that playoff weekend. So with some shifting of teams and things like that, let's dive in. We've got our 2 divisions still with our 2 conferences with the American Conference and the National Conference. So all over the American Conference, the impact there, you'll handle the National. So on the side of the American, we've got the Coastal and Central Division, the same as last year, no real changes. On the side of the Coastal, very familiar here, Las Vegas Ramblers, Orlando Southern Exposure, and then the Inland Empire Matadors. So that's going to be untouched, exactly the same as we saw last year. However, expect that Matadors team to look quite a bit different. There's going to be some familiar faces. Alvaro Hidalgo, who we saw in Colorado Kraken last year, one of their all-stars. He'll be coming back and reprising that role, so excited to see that. Another all-star might be making his appearance from one of the departed teams in that conference as well, so keep an eye out there. Then on the side of the Central Division, we've got the Utah Stingers that still remain there. However, they are the only one. With the departure of the Dallas Tornadoes and the Colorado Kraken, that means that San Diego Wild and Philadelphia Founders will now be slotting in. So this one's going to be a bit of a coin flip. Hard to tell exactly what's going to be coming back. Utah Stingers have perennially been a powerhouse in the league. Maybe didn't see the finish that they wanted last year. And you know that owner Russ Holmes is not going to take that line down. So excited to see how that team kind of rebounds from 2022 and those 2 new teams come in. What do you got inside of the National?
So I'll round up the American Conference and the National Conference this year. In the Coastal section, we have the Orange County Sunners. Thank you. How you doing? We also have the New Jersey Freedom and the Puerto Rico Pythons, one of those new teams that we mentioned earlier. And the Pythons have gotten Joseph. What's Joseph's last name?
Joseph Cuevas.
Joseph Cuevas from the Audis. Thank you very much. They have picked up Jair Santiago, our old opposite hitter, and just filling in a bunch of new spots. So look for them to make a splash in that conference against us. And in the Central Conference, we have the Texas Tyrants coming back strong again this year with a lot of new faces. A lot of new faces for the Tyrants.
Oh yeah, so they basically lost the majority of their non-core starters, and they are bringing in some of the biggest firepower. Ryan Mather, 2-time NBA All-Star MVP right side. They've got Antoine Aguilar from the Las Vegas Ramblers. They're bringing in Tanner Maxwell. So that's 3 Las Vegas Ramblers that have headed that way. You're going to see Jake Langlois returning alongside Gianluca Grasso, who just played the CEV Challenge Cup final over in Israel for Maccabi Tel Aviv and lost to Olympiacos from Greece. They're going to be bringing in Jose Molero once again. So a lot of
Tyrants are quite a different team. So that's why this guy is the best.
Yes.
To tell him. He just knew know all that. I'll right on top of the set. Coming in after the Tyrants, we have the LA Blaze. They're looking pretty good again this year. And then in the last team, we have the Chicago Untouchables.
So not a lot of adjustments there. Like we said, the Central on the National Conference and the Coastal on the American Conference, both untouched. It's just those other 2 divisions that are going to be some coin flips and seeing exactly what goes on there. I do want to circle back. Puerto Rico Pythons, as I'm kind of going through there. You know, we see some of these names that have made their debuts throughout. We're going to see names like Ismael Alomar, who back in 2020 played for the Ontario Matadors. They were the Ontario Matadors at the time. We're going to see Antonio Aguizola, who was your former teammate with the Sunners, will make his appearance.
Shout out to you, bro, Tim.
Yeah, Jair Santiago. We're going to see just a variety of names there. Christian Encarnacion, who was another guy that played for one event with Kraken last year, played with Matadors previously in 2020. So it's going to be a lot of faces that have been familiar throughout the league that I don't think all the fans necessarily know. Like, these are the Puerto Rico natives. Like, they've been making that trek out from Puerto Rico to play in these events. And so it just seemed like such a natural bridge for the league that is all about growing the game.
And we are excited as heck to get Puerto Rico involved with this. We love having a team there, and I think it's the coolest thing ever. So.
Yeah, that announcement when we brought that in, fans were fired up. There is a ton of passion right there. So I'm excited to see how that one's going to go. But let's transition now. This is always the gimme question, and it's a little bit dangerous, it feels, for us to answer. Now that I own my own team, you're starting on one of, arguably the strongest and most established team. It's a little bit of a big question to ask here, but I want to go through each of these conferences and divisions and pick who's going to win. Because a reminder for our fans, the way that it's structured, out of your 3 teams, if you win, you automatically grab one of those 4 bids. Now, between the remaining 4 teams in your conference, the best 2 records go. So what that means is, hypothetically, one division could be represented by all 3 teams in their division. So
I like that.
yeah, it just makes sure that no division gets that 3rd team. Maybe they're a great team in a tough division. It helps protect them from getting eliminated.
We don't want any weak teams getting into the playoffs. We want only the cream of the crop.
Exactly. So with that being said, I want to first start with who you think has got to win each of the divisions. So let's start with that. So in the Coastal, Ramblers, Exposure, Matadors.
Right off the top of my head, I got to do Ramblers. You know, they're the winners last year, and you got to take down the winner before you can say that you're on top of the list. You know,
I'm right there with you. I think the big thing here that a lot of fans may not know yet, that they'll be seeing soon with some of the announcements there, a lot of new faces on that Rambler roster. They lost a lot of pieces to Wild, Founders, Tyrants, things like that. That roster almost split up. But they had a very established pipeline, so they grabbed all-stars from a variety of other teams. They're going to be very ready to compete and looking for gold run back this season. Let's move on now to the American Central. Utah Stingers, San Diego Wild, Philadelphia Founders.
Hold on a second. Before we get to the Central, I know you're a Coastal pick. Who is your American Coastal winner?
Oh, it's got to be the Ramblers.
You're going to go the Ramblers?
Absolutely.
All right, so that's 2 for the Ramblers. Now, remember, don't pin us down on this because we are in no way affiliated with any gambling websites and we have no insights in on this. This is just merely our perspective and our opinion, and we both think the Ramblers are going to win.
We know the Ramblers will know.
Central, between the Stingers, the Wild, and the Founders. You did get a lot of really good guys for that watch.
Some of them are unannounced yet, so we're going to be careful on exactly who, but talk about a couple of those familiar names. We had Joel Auerkamp, Michael Keegan, Sam Berge, and Josh Eisenberg, who are currently playing with Joe Luca Grosso. So they just played that Challenge Cup match as well.
And with those things that I know that everyone else doesn't know, I'm going to go with the San Diego Wild. Wow, it's my wild card pick. The San Diego Wild.
I appreciate that. And I sit here and I know that Founders is currently doing a lot of work to grab those pieces. So it's tough to know exactly where they're going to be. And I feel similarly to the Utah Stingers, they're looking at a lot of young blood coming out of the NCAA this season that they're hoping to bring in and really fill in some of those spots in that roster. But again, I'm a homer. If you think I'm picking anyone but my boys, you are outside your mind. You haven't been watching who I am for the last 3 years. I try to shoot straight, but I think the best way to do that in my position is to just be a part of a team that's very good. So I'm going to say a lot of confidence here, San Diego Wild.
No surprise there. And me picking the Wild wasn't just being nice to you. I genuinely think you guys are going to show up and
that's the hope.
Do some good stuff, All right, swinging to the National Coastal between the Stunners and the Freedom and the Pythons. It's kind of like mixed pick with the Wild and don't Stunners all day. Sorry, Freedom. Sorry, Pythons. Come at us.
See, this one excites me because I think this is hands down. This is the strongest division in the league. No questions. When I look at Freedom, they're returning all the familiar faces they're used to seeing. They've got a couple more supplemental guys. They've been doing some hunting overseas. But again, the thing to remember is Freedom has a bunch of guys that can be playing overseas that stay home and pursue, their 9-to-5 career. But that allows them to really keep training year round. They are well known for just being a unit that you've got to come out and beat every time. They're not going to give you a match ever.
And don't forget, they went undefeated in the regular season. No one beat them. They were the standard. They were the top dog, and until us.
I was just understood nine badly. So they look at Puerto Rico Pythons, again, largely untested. This team absolutely passes the heat check on paper when you look at who they've got. But again, it comes down to who's able to travel every time. And frankly, how do they put it all together on the court? So I'm very excited for what that team will do. But again, if I learned one thing, it's don't bet against the Senators. However, now that I say it, where it is sometimes safe to bet against the Senators is simply just to win the conference. I would put far more money on Senators to go to end in the playoffs.
It's a good point.
Maybe
We usually slide our way into the playoffs.
you just kind of find a comfortable 6th seed, something like that. But you never be like, oh, right, this is who we are, and then proceed to just light everybody up that last weekend.
That's when we kind of light that fire underneath our heels.
I don't know now.
Start playing.
Now that I say that, you know, and you were mentioning earlier your lack of confidence, like, hey, we just didn't get that one win the first weekend.
Yep.
All right, I'll take Team Freedom.
Freedom it is.
And this is not, again, if I said who's going deeper in the playoffs, I'm still taking you guys. You know, you check pretty much everywhere, but
That's a slight, and then we'll take it into this.
yeah, maybe you shouldn't be it personal.
Yep. I really don't like that.
All right, then finally we head to the National Central. What do you got there? Tyrants, Blaze, Untouchables.
You know, the Tyrants, like you mentioned, all those guys that they just picked up, I think they're the favorite to win it. Blaze is always fighting pretty good. The Untouchables, same thing. They could take games off of anyone. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to go to the Texas Tyrants on this. Tyrants are my favorite.
Yeah, I think Tyrants are the obvious choice here. LA Blaze, they started with a nice spark to the 2022 season. They picked up 2 or 3 wins in those first 2 weekends. I felt like they might have kind of built some pieces to really form their season around. Unfortunately, in the latter half of the season, I think they just fell a little bit flat, had some tough losses. And right in those, that 5th to 8th place teams, like that range right there, they kept just dropping those 5-set tough losses. And at the end of the day, it just kind of kept them out of that playoff picture. So I want to see if that, and you know, we're going to see Charles Baldwin returning here. There's a common name.
Good guy.
And so I'm just curious if they're going to be able to kind of supplement that roster, what they're going to be able to do. Is there any new talent that's going to come in? Otherwise, I think that's kind of a question mark.
I was just about to say, they are my team question mark right now. We're not really sure. But
Yeah. Chicago Untouchables, the one mainstay there. Last year, they were kind of half Chicago, half Philadelphia. So a lot of guys that you saw on the court have now actually gone to that Founders squad, where Chicago Untouchables were really looking at Noah Ricchetti as well as Will Radlin or the core of the returning guys. But there's been a lot of resources being put towards that team to really rebuild it. So I'm excited to see what they kind of put forth in terms of what the infrastructure is going to do for them. But I think they're one of the teams I'm most excited to see what will happen in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm not sure that in a 6-month off season, it was maybe enough yet for the rebuild, but what I'm hearing that's going on in Chicago, I'm very optimistic for what's to come to that program. Well, that's been a great foundation establishment for episode 1. We're going to be back with another episode 2 before the season gets underway, really taking down event number 1, what fans can expect, what the big roster moves are going to look like, a little bit more in depth, kind of, get into some of those matchups. So I'm excited for that one. But for myself, Nick West, this is the Nick and Nick side of the new quest for the cup. That's going to do it for us. Stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe to all things NBA, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, as well as YouTube. We'll see you next time.